Okay, everyone. We have a new patch. It's dropping tomorrow, which will be today by the time this video launches. Where I believe the meme going around is this patch is for set 4.75. I'm not going to disagree too much because this patch 11.4 is a very big patch, and this video is probably going to be pretty long as we go through all of the details on it. As you can see in this highlight here, a lot happened. So, we'll start with the system changes. First is the Lucky Lantern. The main thing with... There are 2 points of Lucky Lantern here. One is the consumables of loaded dice and target dummies. So on Stage 3 and Stage 4, you could get 2 loaded dice and 2 target dummies. 2 loaded dice was a problem. It was a problem because there was a lot of situations where you could very easily 2-star or even 3-star champion by being specific levels where you used the loaded dice. This was particularly a problem with the Stage 3, in my opinion, because at Stage 3, it was still highly possible you were trying to reroll a 1 cost, and this was just a free opportunity to get that up to 3 costs and instantly level. The problem with 2 target dummies, at least in my opinion, it was a lot to control. Well, there's 2 problems. One, there's a lot to control when you have target dummies. They're like Azir soldiers, but they require the work of an Azir soldier, and I think for lower elos that was probably a bit too much. The other problem is, for some reason, targeting on them does not function like Azir soldiers. So all of those issues that we had with weird shit targeting Azir soldiers, everything's now targeting these target dummies, and it's really weird. It really throws me off. I'm not quite sure why it's like that, but I've noticed significantly a lot of like healing effects, shield effects get thrown onto these target dummies when they don't deserve it. The other issue with Lucky Lanterns was the Stage 4 Lucky Lantern, where you get 3 item components. This is a pretty big power spike to people who have greeted their items most of the game, which is what I kind of learned to do on this patch, on patch 11.3. Was you basically make 1 item per stage starting in Stage 2. So when you hit Stage 2, you'll make an item. When you hit Stage 3, you'll make an item. When you hit Stage 4, you'll make an item. And then when you hit Stage 5, you use all your items. This allows you to get basically optimal items, usually whenever you wanted it to. On my side, it usually meant I made a bunch of defensive items because I got shit rolls, but whatever. The big issue is that this ended up being a pretty significant boost to people who had already been high rolling and been hoarding their items. Chosen mechanic. So, chosen mechanic, base odds. So the way the chosen mechanic, if you don't know, the base odds of hitting a chosen is 33%. It scales upward as you continue rolling, or if you didn't hit a chosen the previous time. Now it's gone up to the base odds are 50%, which is a pretty significant boost. Basically, it's going to mean that if you roll, if you do not hit a chosen and you roll again, odds are you're going to hit a chosen. The odds are pretty low in that situation where you don't hit a chosen, from my perspective. This is mostly going to stop some of the like really, really high rolly things, or if you were specifically looking for a chosen, you might actually find it. I thought this was particularly an issue near the end game, when you basically were playing a comp that got you through the mid game but was not going to take you anywhere in the late game. So you would have to drop your chosen and roll down to find another chosen, and you'd hit Fortune Sejuani, Vanguard Aatrox, and you just staring like, I can't take this. This doesn't make a comp. Hopefully this fixes some of that. No guarantee, but particularly near the end game when you're rolling down, this should help out a lot. Early game, probably makes it more likely that you're going to find a 1-cost chosen that you're just going to reroll with. But you might not, because we'll get into things that are changing with reroll. Other change, the roll odds. So at level 4, the roll odds are going from 60-40 to 80-20. It was a pretty common strat. It kind of faded away, though, I'll have to say. I think a lot of people favored ecoing more, where if you hadn't seen a chosen by 2-1, on 2-1 you would level. So that way, when you were guaranteed a chosen at 2-2, you had a chance for it being a 2-cost, which was a pretty significant power spike. The only issue with doing that was that you completely trashed your eco, because if you picked up a 2-cost chosen there, you wouldn't be able to make eco at 2-3. It is almost impossible, in my opinion, to make eco in that situation. This is meant to tone that down. The power spike of getting that particular 2-cost champion at level 4 was very strong at that point in time in the game. Also, all of the chosen bonus traits are all going down. All of them. Some of them were more problematic than others. The bonus spell power was a particular problem with Aurelion Soul. The bonus AD was a particular problem with Yasuo. The mana reduction was a problem with a whole bunch of champions. Mostly, in my opinion, Lulu and Fiora. Fiora was kind of crazy, and we'll talk about Fiora later, because Fiora gets big nerfs. And chosen health goes down to 300. I'm going to be honest, this is probably a buff. Because of how popular the Brawler comp was, a lot of people, I thought, in my opinion, were making Giant Slayers to counter out that comp. This probably helped you avoid some of the top peaks on the giving buffs away to Giant Slayer, but this one doesn't mean too much, to be honest. Trait changes. Okay, so the long and short of all of these trait changes is the chase, I'll put in chase levels of these traits were getting hit way more than they should. And that's mostly because all you needed was a chosen and a spatula. Whereas in previous sets, you needed 2 spatulas, and that was really hard to do. Mostly because you would make a fawn, because a fawn's a better item anyway. But there were a handful of cases where you would hit these chase levels of these traits, and it was like a free win. We'll go through some of these so we can talk about them. So Assassin was kind of one of them, but Assassin really wasn't that bad, in my opinion. They did nerf it down by 5 points at 6 Assassin. Same thing with the bonus damage. They actually nerfed 4 bonus damage, but I don't... That one also doesn't seem very significant to me. Brawler was a big one, so they nerfed 200 health out of 8 Brawler, because 8 Brawler had way too much health. But more importantly, they cut damage down at 6 Brawler and 8 Brawler. This is where the hit needed to happen. And I welcome this change. Shyvana 3-star was way too strong with like 6 and 8 Brawler. Cultist Galio, he's getting some additional magic resist at Cultist 9. This isn't going to change anything. Cultist is not a good late game comp. You should basically never play Cultist 9. There's no carry, there's nothing you can do. The main reason for this was to make it so that some of the, what was it? Not set. What other unit was it? I'm drawing a blank here. There was another unit that's all basically just instant deleted him, and it was like, well, that's sad and depressing. I can't remember who it was. For some reason, I want to say set, but it wasn't set. Dragon Soul. I'm going to skip Dragon Soul and get back to it, because we'll talk about that in a second. Divine. So Divine 2 was busted. We all kind of knew that when the last patch came out, and they buffed they changed the functionality of Divine so that it was scaling as true damage and reduction and setting the time limit on it to 6 seconds. Yeah, we all kind of knew that 2 Divine was going to be a little bit janky. Actually, I shouldn't say it was just going to jank out on everything. It was going to like crush like early game, and it was pretty free to run in a lot of compositions later in the game. So they're giving a big hit to 2 Divine and a small hit to 4 Divine, but they're buffing up 8 Divine. Don't really know why. I don't think anyone ever plays 8 Divine. It's a very odd one to see. Elderwood. Yeah, Elderwood kind of gets at the point what I was saying about the high-end chase on some of these traits was way too powerful. Elderwood 9 was a win con. It really didn't matter what your comp looked like. If you hit Elderwood 9, the buffs that you were getting were kind of insane. So, to respond to that, they're nerfing the magic resist and armor and the AD and spell power at 9. For some reason, they also nerfed 6. I don't think that was really necessary. 9 was necessary. I agree on 9. I don't really know if 6 really needed this hit. But whatever. Warlord, kind of the same deal. Particularly the spell power nerf. Katarina's kind of problematic because she jumps in the backline and never gets targeted, and then she's allowed to just freely build up her ult and kill everything. Or whatever stun you have that you're using against her goes off before she starts ulting, so she kills everything. So these were pretty well placed. These were needed. Going back to Dragon Soul, so there's a bunch of nerfs coming in this patch to pretty much like every build, nearly every build that's played across the board. But late in 11.3, had developed Dragon Souls. 6 Dragon Soul had become a very strong competition. I don't know if it was the top, but I started seeing it a lot in my games, particularly on Tuesday. So this was more of a preemptive nerf to keep Dragon Soul down to the level of all of the other compositions. I'm not quite sure if this is going to hit where it's intended because everything else is moving as well. This being a preemptive nerf rather than a nerf of something that we've actually seen be strong. It's hard to tell where this one would land, but I do actually appreciate it because I was very worried that on this, when they showed the initial patch notes on Sunday, right, Mort Dog did, I was worried that because Dragon Soul was untouched, that Dragon Soul was just going to like blow out everything this patch. So seeing these preemptive nerfs to Dragon Soul makes me feel a little bit better. Champion changes. So lots of nerfs at 1-star because all of the rerolls were out of control. Reroll was very easy to play. You hit your chosen, you rerolled it, and you made happy. And that was about it. There's not much else to say. That said, some of these I have issues with. Diana is getting nerfed at 3 different levels here. I can get behind the attack speed nerf, and I can get behind one of these 2 nerfs, but both of these nerfs basically just deletes Diana. You can't play Diana if the shield is going to be this small and the damage is going to be this low. Fiora, this was mostly, I think the issue was more of Enlightened Fiora combined with Chosen Fiora, having a low mana cost and being able to ult like 10 times during the battle and just be completely immortal. So while I understand this mana nerf, it feels excessive to me. I could have probably gotten behind going up to 80 or 85. I don't think I could go up to 95 from there, but I do think this nerf did need to come. Chosen Fiora was actually kind of crazy in the early game. Did really obnoxious crap. Nasus, Nasus's ult cost too low. I think 80 is probably more appropriate. I don't know if this actually takes him out. Actually, when I first read this, I didn't think this took him out of like contention of a reroll comp you could play. But then they nerfed his damage on his ultimate, and I'm just like, he might not be playable anymore. Yeah, I think this was added in later onto the patch notes. So, is it playable? Maybe. The Nasus reroll is still playable. This damage nerf kind of worries me, though. Nidalee. So, I have like 5 different videos of me just getting Sharpshooter Nidalee and just rolling it into a first that's just free. Because this is the easiest comp in the game to play. It is the most busted comp in the game to play. And it's free. You get a 3-star Nidalee and she deletes the entire board. So, they reworked Nidalee. Rather than just giving her a bunch of nerfs, they completely reworked her. And I approve of this rework. So, the way Nidalee now works is that her ultimate now just doesn't do infinity damage and get a small bonus per hex. Now it does a little damage and gets a big bonus per hex. So, this means that if something stands up and starts beating Nidalee in the face, this ult doesn't do any damage anymore to that unit. Whereas over here, we would just insta-kill it. Over here, we're not going to insta-kill it. In fact, we're probably going to get beat in the face and die. I feel like this does kind of crush Nidalee reroll, but I'm not sure Nidalee reroll was ever supposed to be a thing anyway. I'm fine with this. I'm curious if you can still play this build. You might actually just still be able to play this build. It just is going to look a little bit different, and your mid-game is going to suffer a good bit more because you're not getting these free kills off of this 3-star Nidalee. Wukong's getting a tiny nerf. Don't really know why. I think this is more of a hit because Divine, or early Wukong off Divine was probably playing too strong. I don't think this was really necessary. It's very minor anyway, so I'm not going to make too much of a big deal out of it. The Yasuo nerf, on the other hand, I am going to make a big deal of. Yasuo reroll has pretty much always been a thing in TFT. he's kind of getting deleted here. Uh, these are big number changes from here. I'm not sure how I feel about how much they've hit this attack. I feel like Yasuo reroll should still be a thing, but these numbers don't sit well with me. I think they overtuned this one. This one went in the oven and came out a little burnt. Just kind of my opinion there. Tier 2 changes, Braum. So the thing with Braum is actually good. He just has no mid-game home. So what they tried to do here was make Braum a little more useful, particularly in Dragon Soul. By increasing his attack speed, it means that when he gets, as a frontliner, he gets bopped hit in the face first, which triggers Dragon Soul on him. And because he's attacking more, you get more of those Dragon Soul breath strikes to bop things in the face. I think it's a good change to make him played a little bit more, because I think he was falling behind a lot of the other early one cost 2-star Vanguards compared to what he probably should have been. Nautilus is kind of the same deal, but part of the problem was a lot of his power was built into this Fabled perk. So you would only really see him being played in Fabled. So what's happened is they've pulled some of the power out of this Fabled shield and just put it into his base stats, which I'm fine with. I just don't know if it's really going to change anything, because you've effectively made the Fabled trait worse, and we're just not going to play these. And we didn't play these champions before, and now they have minor buffs, and we're just not going to play them anyway. I worried that we just took him out of his one home for him not to have any homes at all. And I think the same thing happens with Nico later, but Nico's a little bit different. Teemo targeting. He no longer attacks the highest attack speed and goes for current target. I'm actually fine with this. It made Teemo more useful than he really had any right to be, because the highest attack speed was almost always whoever does the most damage and whoever the carry was. So switching over to current target is probably better, in my opinion. But then Zed got a nerf. I don't know why. I honestly don't really know why. Zed is not a good comp. It's top 4 bait. Getting a win off, it's like nearly impossible, in my opinion. Yeah, I actually really don't understand this one. Tier 3 changes. Aurelia. So apparently no one 3-stars Aurelia except me, because I've done it like 4 times, and Aurelia 3-star is actually good. So they buffed her, because no one does it. Cool story. If you put an assassin spat on Aurelia, she's really, 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 really crazy. Katarina. This one is interesting to me. So they lowered the number of targets that Katarina has, which I didn't really understand in the first place, in that, like, how it functioned or how it was meaningful. And at this point, I've come to the conclusion I don't really think it's meaningful either. Katarina is just going to sit in her position, not get attacked, build up her ult, and then blow up everything. I don't really think anything has changed here. Now, even though they nerfed the 3-star damage, it's not really enough in my mind. Kennen. I want to talk about Kennen. So Kennen is getting very significant buffs at 1-star, 2-star, and 3-star. Kennen is a champion right now who doesn't have a home. The one time that I do play Kennen is in, like, the mid game where I'm playing keepers. So I have a keeper chosen, I have another keeper, I find a Kennen. And I'll make Kennen my carry for my mage champions. So I find he's often very good for transitioning into Enlightened, where he can carry a Morello that can go on Morgana. I find he's fairly good when I'm transitioning into Aurelion Soul, because I've already stated I'm playing keepers. Keeper composition runs 2 keepers. Or, keeper composition. The Elderwood composition plays 2 keepers in Rakan and Xayah. So having a Kennen to hold your Aurelion Soul items is actually great for that comp. It gives you another way to get to it without having to play mages, which I think is actually really useful. Not that you shouldn't play mages. You probably should still be playing mages to get to it, so you have damage. But this is just another way to get there. So I think that like this really buffs up Keeper mid game a lot, and nobody's playing it. And I hope people figure this out pretty quickly. That Keeper mid game is going to be pretty strong. It's not going to win you lobbies, but it can get you to a point where you can go hard 8 eco and get up to 9 without losing more than 50 life. That's how I view it. Nico, like they did with Nautilus, they're taking some of the power out of the way of the Fabled bonus and just putting it into just raw damage. Now the difference here is that Nico actually like theoretically could see play being a Mystic, but I think the issue right now is that you're probably just playing Janna and Yumi, who I think as Mystics providing utility is just a bit better. I'm not sure what Nico as an item carrier getting you into the late game. I'm not quite sure what's happening there, to be honest. Nunu, so they're finally nerfing 3-star damage on Nunu. I don't know if you've seen the memes of Chinese Nunu. That was a very, very popular build on Chinese servers to reroll Nunu at 3-star and give him like Gunblade, Bramble, Declaw, and just kind of laugh maniacally at how much damage Nunu did to compositions and just like 1v9 things. Yeah, it was a little overtuned, so it got toned down a little bit. Shyvana, speaking of overtuned, Shyvana was way overtuned. Probably the best performing 3 costs in the game. So she's just getting nerfs everywhere. All of them are probably pretty appropriate, to be honest. I don't know what to say. Shyvana was severely overtuned. Next, the tier 4s. Again, they want Aatrox to be a carry. Aatrox isn't going to be a carry. He's a utility. He will forever be utility. But he does a nice extra damage if that's what you're looking for. Asol, so one of the problems with Asol was 3-star Asol. His ult was both killing everything on the first attack and the second attack, and we couldn't have that. He needs to not kill everything on the first attack and needs to kill everything on the second attack. Or else, then he will just, like, shoot his cannon one direction and then turn and spin it another, and that would, like, delete 5 champions off the board. That's why he was getting the 3-star nerf, because he was basically overperforming 5 cost 3-stars the way he was built. Cho'Gath, Cho'Gath actually got really good buffs here. So he's getting an additional 20 armor, which is a lot for a brawler. And 2, they changed his targeting to basically be the same as Morgana's targeting. So he's almost always going to be targeting groups now. Rather than, as I've seen him do many times, target my 1 carry, stun my 1 carry, get my 1 carry killed, and I lose because I don't have a carry, because that was the first thing that died. Instead, he's going to go for the entire pack, and I'll be fine in situations like that. Grumble. If you think I'm tilted, I'm very tilted from that fight. Still, that was like 2 weeks ago. Kale's one of the best 4-cost champions in the game. So it's not surprising to see a 2-star and 3-star nerf. I don't think this changes that much on Kale. Kale has so much going for her that this doesn't change much. Morgana's kind of funny. So Morgana 3-star was like deleting things on the first tick of damage. Morgana 3-star was destroying fools. So they toned her down a little bit. Because this number was really high. Really, really, really high. Olaf. So Olaf's cleave damage is just set at 50%. Now, Olaf was kind of a weird carry in that he's good, but he's not great. There were like significantly higher performing carries than Olaf. But the bonus now is that his Ragnarok now blocks the AD reduction that you would get from Morgana. Good change. Talon, they buffed Talon 3-star. I think he was the lowest performing 4-cost 3-star in the game. I don't think this changes anything. Like his ult is meant to delete things anyway, so making it higher, I don't think this changes much. Tryndamere is an interesting champion. Tryndamere is kind of supposed to be an alternate carry. in like both duelist and particularly warlords. The problem is there are other carries that are easier to hit and are probably just as good in both of those compositions. So in duelist, you're just rerolling Yasuo. In warlords, you have Katarina or you had Nidalee reroll. So like you basically just get this Tryndamere and you're like, I'm not gonna itemize you. I can wait till for duelist I get to 8, I hit a Yone and itemize him. Or in warlords, it's I get Samira and I'll have sharpshooter and Slayer with Samira and just delete entire compositions. Why would I waste my time putting these items on Tryndamere? So in those terms, I don't think much has changed here, to be honest. But it does make Tryndamere carry, I think, is actually just fine. It's basically on par with Olaf, in my opinion. Like it's basically just as good as Olaf. Not better, but basically just as good. He has some functionality difference that make him certain items a little better on him than Olaf. But because he's not getting play as a carry the way that Riot wants him, they're giving him a whole shitload of buffs here that are actually really good buffs. So for one, his spinning slash will go further because it's going to look for targets that are a little bit further out. So the way his ult kind of works is that he'll often get up to a champion and just stop. Now he's actually going to look a little bit further before he stops. It basically means he's going to go further when he spins. While at the same time, his spin animation is going to be faster, which means he's going to spend more time whacking things in the face because that's what he's really good for. They also lowered the mana cost, or they increase his starting mana so that way that he's going to ult faster. He's going to run into the corner and blow up things a bit faster. Xayah's 3-star is getting buffed back. No one 3-starred Xayah because Xayah is not a good carry anymore. She might be after this patch, though. Keep an eye on that. Tier 5, couple changes. Aura and Artifacts. So Eternal Winter is the best Aura and Artifact in the game. Pretty busted, to be honest. It would freeze on 5 hits. It slowed you down to like 50% attack. It's actually a pretty crazy item. Mana Zane, surprisingly, was one of the worst items. I was actually very surprised to hear that Mana Zane is one of the worst items. So the total mana that Mana Zane is restoring hasn't changed. It's just doing it over a shorter period now. I was really shocked at that fact that Mana Zane was one of the worst performing items. Especially like all the issues that we've had with like significant mana regeneration, particularly in like set 3. So this honestly surprised me. Yone, I'm gonna facepalm this. Yone became one of the worst performing 5-cost champions in the game. I don't know how we went from him being completely busted to him being one of the worst performing 5-cost champions in the game. So they tuned him back up. Tie goes in, tie goes out. You can't explain that. Samira, interesting nerf to Samira. Not exactly the direction I would have gone, but an interesting direction nonetheless. So Samira has like significant range. They basically cut her range by 2 hexes here. This makes it so that she's not going to be ulting as quickly as she has before. And if you have seen her ult, you would know the ult is a delete button to everything in range of that ult. The ult just murders everything. Like, nothing really matters. Anything within that ult's range is dead. So, by nerfing her range, it makes her harder to build up style. And because it's taking her longer to build up style, she doesn't get the opportunity to ult. Now, this doesn't really fix the issue of the fact that melee champions never attack her because of the way her attack works and that she fires and jumps somewhere. But it does change the fact that now she often will have to walk up to champions if there is nothing in range to target. I think this is a pretty big nerf, actually. I'm just not quite sure how much of a nerf it's going to be. It probably is going to be one of those nerfs where you're going to see some, like, wild play to, like, not get murdered by Samira. there's a lot going on here with this attack range nerf that I'm not sure really is understood by anyone, to be honest. But I still think Samira will be one of the higher performing 5-cost champions. But this nerf is a lot bigger than I think people realize when they read this change. Item changes. AD stacks are going down. You now only get 15 AD per stack. I recall they originally had it is like it starts with 4 stacks but only gets 5 AD per stack, and I'm just like, what? Yeah, there's a lot of levers that they can change on Deathblade, but Deathblade, particularly on Samira, was a little out of control. Gargoyle Stoneplate, it's one of the worst performing of, I call them the 3 trinity of defensive items. Bramble, Gargoyle Stoneplate, and Declaw. And the order is basically Declaw, Bramble, Gargoyle Stoneplate. So Stoneplate kind of needed this buff. So we'll see where it goes from here. Shiv! Shiv has been reworked for like the 5th time in its lifespan. At some point, Shiv is going to go away because it's being too difficult to work to be something useful. Anyway, so what's changed with Shiv? Shiv can now critically strike, and when it critically strikes, it puts down a magic resist nerf for 6 seconds onto the units it hit. In return, it doesn't jump as much, and it also does a little less damage. So effectively, Shiv is now working as an Ionic Spark. Effectively. Probably not as good as Ionic Spark, but effectively working like it. Really, 2 worries I have with this is, 1, it has to critically strike to have this proc. I think that's probably going to be a significant downfall of this item, is that now you have to get crits off of it to get this magic resist nerf. But I can see how on like executioners where this would be pretty useful. So like I wouldn't put this on my Kale, but I could theoretically put this on my Kindred to get this nerf put down on a bunch of things. The real problem here is Shiv uses a bow. And I don't know if you know about bows this set. Bows are kind of popular this set, and you need to make a lot of items off bows. So I'm not quite sure you're going to see situations where people are going to be making a static Shiv off a bow. Your bow is just far too valuable to be making a weird-ass item like this. That could change in some patches later on, but that's not going to be true on the current, on probably this set. I don't think this is going to be that useful. Maybe next set, we'll see. Sunfire Cape. Sunfire Cape now applies burn every 2.5 seconds instead of 2. I can't tell you how strong Sunfire Cape is in the early game and in the mid game, because Sunfire Cape will like dumpster people if you put Sunfire Cape on something that goes into the backline, because the Sunfire Cape alone is basically a whole entire another champion beating down on backline units. It is an incredibly strong item. It still will be an incredibly strong item with these nerfs. Go make Sunfire Cape. Quicksilver now blocks the AD reduction. This has been in the games for so long. Just so you know, I believe the only AD reduction in the game is Morgana, if I'm correct. I don't think currently there's any other champion with an AD reduction besides Morgana. I believe all the other reductions are to attack speed. Or just dodge chance and you miss. Bug fixes. Titan's Resolve now works with Executioner trait. Yay. So, Orin combinations. So, it used to be when you combined 2 Orins. So, you had 2 Orins on the field. They both went into combat. Combat's over. They both put 1 point up to build their items. If you were to buy a 3rd Orin, the way it used to work would be you'd only get 1 stack, because you'd only get points for the highest stack you had. Now, they combine. So if you have 2 with 1 stack, and you combine them by picking a 3rd out of the shop, you now get 2 stacks. Big change, actually. Especially like to people who find like an early double Orin. It's a pretty significant change. Like, early Orin is already one of the stronger things you can do in the game if you have the time to get him out and build up an item. But, like, this change allows you in certain situations where you could just play 2, and it's better. We'll keep an eye on this. I don't think this one's actually going to be as meaningful as I try to make it out to be, but it's not like it's not meaningful. There's a bug where you don't get the chosen benefits when you make a 3-star chosen by picking a chosen out of the shop. I've never seen this before, but apparently this happens. Olaf can no longer be kicked off the board well, by Lee Sin when Ragnarok is active. Good change. I've been blown up by this before. Set fixes, if he's healing while he's doing sit-ups, it now counts as being healed, so that way he can get the true damage buff after going back to full health. Zillion, depricing, yeah. Target dummies. Trindabeer's attack now goes to the fact that, so when he does a spinning slash, that now counts as a basic attack for things like Static Shiv and Rageblade. So, like, if you hit, like, 3 champions with his spinning slash, that's 3 stacks of Rageblade, which is actually kind of crazy. And if you haven't noticed, this entire patch had nothing but rap lyrics in it, and it was kind of crazy, and a lot of people were angry about it, but I was like, bruh, you put too much effort into this. So, where did this patch land? What do I think is going to happen this patch? I'm going to be honest. I don't have a damn clue. They changed so many levers on this patch, I don't know what's up or down anymore. I think in general, a lot of the flexible transitions that I had been playing, so Elderwood, Olaf, Talon, really it's Morgana carry anymore. Those 3 particular comps, still good. You can still play them. I wouldn't be surprised if Xayah carry is a thing that you can go back to doing now in execution. If you can't find Kayle, because Kayle's too contested, just Hodge, Xayah, go. Zoom. Dragon Soul is probably still going to be good because it was one of the better builds in the previous patch, and they didn't like nerf it down and out of existence. A lot of your rerolls, not as good anymore. Yasuo is going to struggle getting wins. He probably can still top 4. He's going to struggle to get wins. Nasus might still be pretty good. Even with the nerfs, I think Nasus is probably still not bad. Diana's dead. Don't play Diana. Zed is a top 4 comp anyway. Who cares? Shyvana is still good, even though they nerfed her to oblivion. Not going to lie. They really did get her with a hammer. She's still good. Still a solid reroll carry you can play. Warlords will still Keck Lords. It's still a good comp. Kayle is still Kayle. Samira is still Samira. Maybe a little weaker. Fabled is probably still going to be a meme. Nidalee reroll, I don't quite know if it still is going to be a thing or not. It depends how much damage a crit gauntlet will get you at like 2 and 3 star at very short ranges. If you can still kill things with that crit gauntlet, it's probably still okay. But without a crit gauntlet, I think Nidalee actually takes a really significant hit, and it's probably no longer a very strong unit. So I think items are going to be dependent whether Nidalee reroll is actually that good. Anyway, that's about it. I really don't know where we're going to be going with this patch. I think it's going to be a lot more transitionary mid-game comps and way less rerolls. Because like we were talking like 3 to 4 rerolls a lobby at times. So anyway, I'll load up this video. I hope you all enjoy it, and we'll see where the hell we are after this patch hits. Peace out.